Okay, let's calculate some slope. So, as you can see in the notes, I've done a very careful graph, and I'm going to do a much less careful graph right now. And you can clearly see that we have the point 2, 1. I'm going to label the point 2, 1. And we have the point 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. So we have those 2 points on the graph. Always labeling your points. So, now I'm going to write the formula for slope off to the right. Slope equals, well, it's rise. Slope, S-O-L-P-E, equals rise over run. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means what do we rise and what do we run? So we're going to rise the vertical, rise, and we're going to run the horizontal, run. So, how much are we rising and how much are we running? Well, we're rising 3 and we're running 1. So 3 over 1, we know the slope's 3 over 1, but now let's do it algebraically. So the formula is y2 minus y1, not squared, over x2 minus x1. These are subscripts. These are down below. So that's the formula. So I'm going to be a big nerd and write all my stuff off to the right. 3, 4, and 2, 1. I'm going to label the first point x1, comma, y1. And I'm going to label the second point x2, y2. Now, you could have just done this near the graph. So near the point 2, 1, you could have just said x2, comma, y2. And near the point 3, 4, x1, comma, y1. Or you can do it off to the right, whichever. But be very careful with this. So let's write down the formula again. Slope equals, I'm going to skip rise over run. I'm just going to write the part y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Notice I lift it up a little bit so my subscripts don't go down below the next line. Now slope. We're going to use the letter M for slope. I'm surprised that's not in the notes. I'm going to replace the word slope with M. Slope is M. M and slope are the same. So y2. So I'm first going to look at the first thing in the formula. The first thing in the formula is y2. Then I'll look directly above it, y2, and I know that's 1. So I'm going to put that into the formula 1. Then the next thing in the formula is a minus sign. I'm going to very carefully put a minus sign. Then the next thing in the formula, excuse me, I've written down the formula incorrectly partially. So above, I wrote it correctly. Right here, I accidentally put this being a 2 and this being a 2, and they should both be 1s. I'm going to erase them both, and I'm going to put 1s back in blue so you know the mistake that I made, excuse me. The formula from above, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, now looking at the formula, the next thing in the formula is y1. I'm going to circle y1 directly above. I'm going to circle the 4. I should have done that in a different color, whatever. Now I'm going to replace for y1 4 into the formula because that's what it was. Now I'm going to take x2. I'm going to circle that in blue above in the formula. Then I'm going to circle it above. Then I'm going to put a circle around the thing that it is. So it's 2. So I'm going to do 2. Then the next thing in the formula in purple is a minus sign. So I'm going to put a minus sign between. And then x1 I'm going to circle in green is x1, which is 3. And then I'm going to put that in the formula, 3. Then I'm going to do m equals 1 minus 3 is negative 3. 2 minus 3 is negative 2. And a negative divided by positive is, 2 minus 3 is negative 1. One more time, 2 minus 3 is negative 1. Erase the 2 on the bottom and put a 1 there. And a negative divided by negative is a positive. So we have positive 3. Circle your answer. M is equal to 3. Or 3 over 1 if you like. Because that's what we're rising over. That's what we're running. We're rising 3, up 3. Over 1. So the slope's 3 over 1. The vertical distance over the horizontal distance. So let's take another graph. And let's take the point negative 3, 2. Notice it's off my graph, whatever. And negative 1, negative 2. Now, I'm not going to do that thing where I do them off to the right. You can see it in the notes where I did. But I called the bottom point x1, y1, and the top point x2, y2. Now, you may be thinking, does it matter? No, as long as you perform it correctly. So m equals the same formula as above. I'm not going to make a mistake this time. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Rise over run. We're rising y values, so it's on the top. We're running x values, so they're on the bottom. Now I'm going to carefully substitute. So m equals, now I'm not going to do all that circling, but y2 is negative 2. And I'm going to substitute with brackets this time because it's so much more important to do that. Then we have a minus sign, then y1. Excuse me, x2, y2 was positive 2. So I'm going to erase that. I'm going to put it in red. Was positive 2. I should have been doing the circling thing. I'm going to do the circling thing. That's how easy it is to forget. I'm going to circle the y squared, and off to the left is the y squared. Excuse me, the y sub 2. Then I know that that's positive 2, so I'm going to put a positive 2 in for the y squared. Then the next thing in the formula is a minus sign. Then I'm going to substitute with brackets again. Now I'm going to substitute for the y1. And the y1 is negative 2. Off to the left. So I'm going to substitute with brackets. These brackets matter with all these negatives. I give a nice simple example above which don't matter, but these matter. Now, the next thing in the formula is x2. Let's circle that in blue. And x2 off to the left is negative 3, so we can put that into the formula for x2, negative 3. Then the next thing in the formula is a minus sign. Then we can substitute for x1 in purple. x1 is negative 1. So we can put negative 1 in for x1 with brackets. Notice you could have gone off to the right, but eye movement down the page is easier than leapfrogging eye movement to the right of the page. But if you like going to the right, go to the right, whatever. Okay, so m equals, on the top we have positive 2, then we have two negatives side by side. Go back to grade 8 and learn what happens, but negative, negative, two of the same signs, so it becomes a positive. Then on the bottom we have negative 3. Then we have, again, two negatives side by side, so comes a positive. If those were different signs, it would say negative, but it's not. So m equals, on the top we have 2 plus 2 is 4. On the bottom we have negative 3 plus 1, which is negative 2. And 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. The slope is negative 2, or negative 2 over 1. Because, back up to the diagram in blue, we go down 2 over 1. And then again, down 2 over 1, 1 second, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, 2. That is correct. It is correct as well. Down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. Excuse me, there's the point right there. There it is. So down 2 over 1, and then again down 2 over 1. I'm going to draw that. Well, no, I'm going to leave it, but you can draw it in your perfect diagram. Sometimes we put the numbers in the wrong locations, so then that stuff happens. But I want to leave that. So that's how we calculate slope. The formula for slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Make sure you very, very carefully identify which point is x1, y1, and which point is x2, y2. Then very carefully substitute in the equation with brackets. Then combine all your positives and negatives and figure out what the answer is. And check on the graph that the slope rises and runs the appropriate things, the appropriate number of times. Slope.